Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I'm Brian Nemhauser. You can find all that we do on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Apple Podcast, Spotify, at Hawk Blogger. And man, it is a special day. It's a Thursday. Seahawks are on a bye week, and for the first time during the regular season, at least since the preseason, we get to talk to our good friend Robert Mays of the Athletic Football Show. And Robert, man, you have graduated from writing to podcasts to the stage and screen, and now you did your live show last night. Was that your first live show?
No, I've done a couple of them in the past. We did one at Grantland's probably 11 years ago now. Mina was on it. Was on it before she even worked at ESPN. Yeah, it was me and Barnwell and Mina. It was 11 years ago in Brooklyn, and then when I was at the Ringer, we did a couple other ones. We did a couple at we did them at casinos. Like we did one in Vegas, and then we did one in Atlantic City, which was kind of weird. But so I've done a handful of them at this point, and it's always fun. Was so happy to do it, and hopefully we'll do another one here soon.
Yeah, we did one in Nashville, and it was my first experience doing it. It's a different experience having a room full of people just stare at you while you have a conversation about football.
Yeah, it's something else. I don't know. I just feel like our show is. The joke I made last night is just like a room full of earnest nerds. Yes. And so it's a very welcoming, warm crowd. And yes. My wife doesn't listen to the podcast whatsoever. She's like never heard anything that I do. And so it was a new experience for her. And she was like, was there any bit of you that was worried to just like have people ask questions kind of freely afterwards? And I was like, absolutely not. Like I read the mailbag questions that we get. Like we have the most thoughtful people in the world that listen to this show. So it went off without a hitch, and I was not surprised that was the case.
Yeah, at one point when we were in the middle of the show, I kind of was like, you guys can just talk amongst yourselves. You don't have to like just stare at us. And they're like, what do you mean? Like that's what we came here to do. So man, it's good to see you. Congratulations on another successful season and all that you've been into. How's life treating you?
Good. Yeah, it was a hectic year. I miss being with you guys every week, but it was one of those seasons where we did something pretty much every single day. And then we launched a TV show at the Athletic this year, which if you have a Fire Stick or an Echo Show device, you can watch that every Saturday morning. And so I was doing that on Fridays for the first time. So it was a busy year comparatively, but not in a bad way. It was awesome. And it was so funny. We finished we do a live show every Sunday night recapping all the games on YouTube. And we finished and kind of walked out of the studio, and it was me and my two co-hosts. And I think all of us, the three of us collectively looked at each other and we're like, that was fun, but I'm so glad the regular season is over. Yeah. I love the playoffs. It's my favorite time to do the show because all the games are the best games and you really can kind of zero in on the best stuff. Like there's one game going on at a time. You can focus on that. And I just love doing the podcast during these 2 weeks. Like Wildcard Weekend is great. As I'm learning right now, I always forget the prep for Wildcard Weekend is crazy because it's 6 games that you're doing in an in-depth way. So I love the divisional round because it's even more streamlined than we get this week. So I am looking forward to that.
It feels like the divisional round every year is just like unbelievable quality football. Like
best weekend of the year. It's the best weekend of the year. I like Wildcard Weekend, and I actually like the Monday game. I like the fact that we have the games Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I do enjoy that, but there's nothing like divisional weekend when you just have 4 games, likely the 8 best teams, and you just get to sit in that. And I mean, that's one of those moments where it's Tuesday night, we're prepping for the preview show, and it's like the granularity you can get to about what teams are going to do and what it's going to look like. It's my favorite time of the year. So I'm very happy to be marinating in it right now.
Well, so Robert, we heard from, you've done a live show, you've been now on TV, you've done all this stuff. Where does being in a CableThanos video rank for you?
Oh, I've been in one before. Don't pretend like I've never been in one before. Let's be clear about this. I was in it, but maybe Josh was just throwing me a bone because for whatever reason, nothing I said negatively was in there. Nope. The only time I talked was at the beginning, and I joked with him as soon as he released the video. What percentage credit do I get for the video existing? Considering it seemed like we like said his name into the mirror 3 times, and that's why we got the last one, because we almost spoke it into existence on our show. So the fact that we mentioned it on our podcast and that's what he started the video with, I feel like I'll take my royalties in the mail, but I'm very glad that we got another one. I felt like the right way to celebrate the Seahawks season.
Yeah, well, and let's turn our attention there. I mean, first of all, congratulations also as a Bears fan on both the Bears and Seahawks having, I think, good seasons, great seasons, depending on your expectations. When you and I talked during training camp in Renton, and we were looking ahead at this season, and there's questions, right? There's questions from the changes they had made, whether the offense was going to come together, about whether Clint Kubiak was going to be a guy that could lift the offense, whether Sam Darnold, all this stuff. As you've kind of observed the Seahawks season unfolding, what have been the things that most impressed you relative to your expectations?
I just think everything about the offense. I mean, I remember sitting, I said this on our show this week, and I remember sitting in Renton in the media room with Michael Sean Dugar and talking about the offense. And I said, I think they could be the 9th best offense in the league. I think they could be the 27th best offense in the league. Like, there were just so many different things that we didn't know. And all of the small bets that they made and all of the little coin flip kind of situations associated with the offense went their way. I mean, you have JSN going from somebody who had some flashes to an all-pro receiver, like somebody you could build an entire passing game through. That was the first thing. The structure of the offense, that was always something that I believed in. You and I talked about this. Like, even if they had added no offensive linemen, even if they had run back the exact same group that they had last year, going from a system that makes it as hard as possible to play along the offensive line to a system that makes it so much easier to play along the offensive line, I thought they would get better pass protection and be better up front than they were last year. But then you combine the environment with talent upgrades and a guy like Gray Zabel, and you just had so much better play up front throughout the entire season. The structure of the offense, we said this yesterday on our show, but I think there are 2 different things when it comes to offensive coaching. There's plan and there's execution. And plan is, what is the architecture of your offense? What is the identity? What do you want to be? And the Seahawks very clearly were like, okay, we're going to line up in heavy personnel. We're going to try to get you in base. We're going to be a run the ball, play action offense. As a foundational philosophy, that's great. But you still need execution on the other side of it. You need to understand how to sequence plays. You need to understand how to tie things together. You need to understand what the changeups off of that are. And I thought the Clint, from an early point in the season, it was clear that the execution was going to line up with the structure. That Arizona game is the one that really sticks out to me. That Arizona Thursday night game, and just some of the stuff that they were doing and the play calling and just his feel for certain moments. And I was just so impressed, not only with what the plan was on offense, but how they saw through that plan. And then Sam played extremely well over the first half of the season, and I still think has done plenty of good stuff over the second half of the season. And so every single small question you could have had about what the offense was going to be turned out in a positive way for the Seahawks, and that's why they might be the best team in the league.
Well, definitely want to talk more about that. And we're talking to Robert Mays of the Athletic Football Show. You mentioned the offensive line as one of those things, and the structure. And when I was doing some breakdown of like all the teams that tried to renovate their offensive lines this offseason, including the Bears, the Vikings, a lot of teams did. I think the thing that people seem to miss about improving offensive line play, everyone focuses on the players. It is, how many times are you dropping back and straight drop back? How many times is your play action actually married to the run? Like, there are so many other things that changed about the way the Seahawks play offense that lifted that offensive line. And the line that always is in my head from you from this offseason was, Ryan Grubb just had that unit baking in the sun. Like, there was no place for them to hide in that offense. And so the Bears similarly not just improved the quality of the personnel, but dramatically changed the style of offense that they play.
There's no doubt. And I did a video on our YouTube channel about the Seahawks offense a month into the year. It was really early. And I was looking, the number that really sticks out to me from that, the first one is Sam was threw like an accurate on target pass on like 19 of his 20 deep targets over the first month of the season, which is like the craziest stretch I can remember. But the other one was, if you just look at true pass sets, so no play action, no screens, just like we're dropping back to pass. Last season, I think Charles Cross finished number 1 in the league among like all offensive linemen. And then if you look at what they did over the first month to 6 weeks of the season, they were dead last on a rate basis. Like, you couldn't have a more dramatic difference in what the offensive line was being asked for the 2024 Seahawks and what the offensive line has been asked of the 2025 Seahawks. And that's not to diminish the individual performances. I think that it just speaks to how important it is to set up that group for success for you to be a well-oiled NFL offense in the modern era. And I think that's exactly what they got. And I think that's always what Mike wanted. You know, I think even last year, you know, we could talk about how they arrived at the Ryan Grubb thing. It doesn't matter anymore. But I think Mike is a young coach. He spent time in college. I don't think he had like a fully fledged plan for what he wanted his staff to be in the way that Mike's not a striver. Like, I don't think, even if he was the best defensive coordinator in the league, I don't think he was ever somebody who, by the time he was like 2 or 3 years into this, was formulating plans for what he would do when he'd be a head coach in the same way that some other guys are.
Yes.
And so I think they kind of cobbled together a staff pretty quickly based on some connections. And I think he probably had reservations about the overall structure of the offense because of what he believes about football and what he thinks the hard offenses to go against are. And so to see him go so far the other direction, I think really speaks to how this version of the offense plays into his sensibilities as a football coach. And I think that you've seen the fruits of that.
Yeah, really well said. And I think you're spot on with your evaluation of Mike. And I'll tell you one of the things that surprised me, and I'm curious where you are on this. So before the season, I thought what the Seahawks had to do offensively to be successful was over 2,000 yards rushing, a top 10 to 12 rushing offense, and a top 5 defense. Like, I thought those were the 2 cornerstones. And then the rushing offense was terrible for like most of the season. And the offense was like historically explosive in the passing game. And now, Robert, we've kind of like been in this like weird transition, like reverse metamorphosis from a butterfly to a caterpillar, where now they are a good rushing team, not as explosive of a passing team, and added things like better screen game. So maybe I was right after all. I don't know, but like, what do you make of the state of the Seahawks offense for playoff football?
It's a great question. Somebody asked me that yesterday, and I want to go actually dig into it and try to figure out, like, they look good running the ball against the Niners. Like, a lot of teams do that. And so how much of this is some of the teams they played in the back half of the season? How much of it is actual improvements with the running game specifically? I don't have a good answer to that. Like, I haven't really studied it just because, again, they're not playing this week. And so that'll be one of the first things I try to think about next week is like, okay, the improvements we've seen from them in that area, how much of that is something that they can carry into the playoffs when they're going to be playing against better defenses? And the best defenses they're going to be playing against are likely in the Super Bowl, right? Like, those are the best defenses waiting for them in the bracket. But that's a question I have, and I'm curious what you think. Like, how much do you think is the competition, and how much do you think is them actually getting better at some of the things that they're trying to do in that area? I'm sure it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, like so they've rushed for over 160 yards the last 3 games of the season. One of those games was against the Rams, who are no joke in terms of of rushing defense. And what's really happened in my observation is you did see defenses finally call their bluff on matching personnel. And so they're playing a lot of extra coverage, lighter boxes. And the Seahawks initially still were not that effective of a run team. But if you go all the way back to the Rams game in week 11, that was actually one of the more efficient Seahawks rushing games in like the last 5-6 years, actually the last 10 years. It didn't show up because of all these other things that were going on in that game. But I do see that they've gotten better at running the football. And now they've gotten good enough to where a team that does want to just sit back and too deep and play light box, they can punish you a little bit. And the other part of that is the screen game. That's another little quiet part. But and a third part, I mean, I talked to Clint Kubiak about this. Rashid Shaheed, who has not done much in the passing part, Clint Kubiak's seen his effect on the run game. And if you look at 11 personnel in particular, they went from a negative EPA 11 personnel run team to almost always positive in that position group. So there's a lot of little pieces there. My curiosity is they're still not as efficient as they were, but are they better prepared? Do they have more tools in the toolbox when you come into the playoffs and need to survive against all sorts of different defenses?
I like that thought a lot. I think that the flexibility and having answers to more questions is something you always want to be considering when you get into the playoffs. Like, because that's the cool part about the playoffs is that you have these kind of, it's why I'm literally in the middle of my prep for the show today and watching like the Bills, for example. The Bills are very good at bespoke game planning. Like the Bills will do something very specific based on the opponent that they're playing. And even if they have weaknesses defensively, they create these bespoke game plans that they can kind of jump on you one game at a time. And so having an offense that can counter something like that, where it's like, okay, if you're only good at this one thing, some of these really good coaches in the playoffs are going to do everything they can to take away that one thing. And if you don't have any sort of counter off of it, what's going to happen? And so for the Seahawks specifically, if we're kind of pulling some explosiveness away from the passing game, but we're moving some of that to efficiency in the run game, is that a trade-off that you're willing to take if you can be a little bit more balanced to have some more answers when you get into the most important games of the season?
That's the question. That is certainly the question. Well, I want to ask you about the games this weekend and some of the stuff going on there. But just generally with the Seahawks, where do you place the Seahawks as the season ended?
They're the best team.
Say it again.
They're the best team. They're the best team. And I don't think that there is another team that top to bottom is as good as they are right now. I'll be curious what the Rams look like when Quentin Lake gets back. Like I still think that the Rams are really dangerous, but the Seahawks are the best special teams team in the league, and the Rams special teams gives me hives. And so when you just think about all three phases and what they are top to bottom, I think that they're the best team. They have the best defense in football. We've seen that consistently. What they did to dismantle the Niners, it's one of the more impressive defensive performances I can remember. And it's just, what I love about it is that their defense is multifaceted in how they're dominant. You know, the Texans, it's the most simple thing in the world, and they get by with talent. And I think it was Nico Collins last week was talking about Kamari Lassiter, and he said he ain't right. And that's all the Texans defensive players. Those guys are unhinged maniacs, and that's why they're great. The Seahawks have some of that, and they have the best coordinated, most well-constructed defense in football. And so right now, going into the playoffs, I think that they are the best team. I think the second best team is the one that they beat out in the NFC West, and not the one that they beat in week 18, the other team that they played in that Thursday night game. And so right now, that's how I would stack it up. But I'm not sure how you could look at what the Seahawks were over the course of the regular season, what they're doing at the end of the year, and not think that they're the best team in the league.
You are a historian of the game with all that you focused on there. I've been pondering this question. I'm curious if you have any thoughts. I think the Seahawks might have two of the top 5 nickel corners on the same defense in the NFL.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think that's fair.
And has that ever been has there ever been a defense? And I find this particularly interesting for a Mike McDaniel defense and a modern defense that plays light box the way they do. It seems like a really unique situation.
I think the other argument you could make is there were stretches, I want to say in maybe 23, where the Ravens were able to use Marlon Humphrey in the nickel in some situations and Kyle Hamilton in the nickel in other situations. And so that's the other comparison that I would make, where you have this nickel defense that can kind of be what you want it to be based on situation, right? Like you have a big nickel look, and then you have just like a normal nickel look. And that's exactly what the Seahawks are able to do. And then now, like, if If you want to play dime and have both of those guys out there at the same time on the inside, you can do that. And if Tariq Woolen's going to play the way that he did against the Niners, maybe you want to do that. And that's the craziest part about the Seahawks, is just how layered and deep the entire defense is. Where like one of my favorite players to watch in that game against the Niners was what Boye Mafe was doing against the run. Like some of just like the slashing that he was doing as a run defender in that game. And what is if you're stacking up like the hierarchy of the best and most important players in the Seahawks front, where does Boye Mafe rank? Fifth, sixth?
Yeah, not at the top.
It's insane. Like it's what they have built in that area specifically is remarkable, and it extends to the back end. Like the idea that we're gonna slot in Ty Okada when Julian Love gets hurt, and like Drake Thomas is just gonna come in and just play incredible football for what he was asked to do. And like it's just such a reminder of how well coached the defense is. Like when you watch Drake Thomas play and you just see how good of a job they do. Like he's carrying these vertical routes and then coming off of it at the right time and playing downhill when he's supposed to. It's an incredibly well-constructed unit. And the idea that it's not even that they don't have any weaknesses. It's that they go like 2 or 3 deep at almost every one of these positions. It's a masterful job by everybody involved in building that thing.
Well, let's talk about the games this weekend, as I know you are just in the middle of prep, and greatly appreciate you taking some time with us in the middle of all that. Let's start NFC. So Panthers and Rams seems like an easy one, but the Rams struggled with. It's not even just this year. The Rams have not had the best luck with the Panthers in general. Is there any chance that the Panthers get Robert Hunt back and run the ball effectively and slow it down? And I don't know. Is there a 2010 Seahawks versus Saints situation that's possible here?
I think it's always possible. And I think part of that is because the Panthers' run defense has been very good this year.
Mm-hmm.
And that is quietly like a really important part of the Rams' overall formula on offense. Like we talked about it today. I picked Drake May as the MVP, for a lot of different reasons. I think Matthew Stafford has had a masterful year. You absolutely could pick Matthew Stafford, but what the Rams are able to do on early downs and how efficiently they are able to run the ball is the engine of what they want to be offensively. And the Panthers' run defense has been a fantastic unit for most of the season. And so if you can get this team into 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 9s consistently, the Rams have not been good on 3rd down anymore. That's just not where they excel. And so that to me would be the formula of how it could work, how it could happen. Do I think that's going to happen? No.
Yeah.
Like I just don't. I think the Rams are a significantly better team than the Panthers. Yes. I think the Panthers offense specifically has serious limitations. And so the Panthers beat the Rams last time because they got like a bunch of crazy turnovers and they still barely won the game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And 4th downs and like all sorts of stuff. So yeah, a lot of stuff's going to have to go Carolina's way. We'll see. It'll be interesting to watch. Now, the Bears Packers. This one's fascinating. Obviously, the Packers could feel like, hey, we should have won both games, and yet the Packers have been playing like their defense. I didn't realize how poorly their defense
has fallen off a cliff
for a long time. That's even before Micah got hurt. So, what do you make of that matchup?
I want to be less optimistic than I am about the Bears winning the football game because it scares me how much I think they can win it. Yeah. I think that right now, watching that second Bears game back, that their offense is really, really, really close. And they're really close against the Packers specifically. Like the overall point output in that game, I think, is silly. Because there were like 5 drives apiece. Like it was just a very strange game that way. But down to down, I think that the Bears offense has a real chance to click against the Packers defense, especially on the ground. And so I think if they're better up front significantly on that side of the ball, that goes a long way. I'm still terrified about what the Packers offense can do against the Bears defense. Like there's just no good answer. The Bears defense is a bad unit. Like it's just a bad unit. There is nothing they do well. And so that becomes my concern, because even if the Packers defense has fallen off, Jordan Love has played at a really high level for a huge chunk of this year. It is still a very good offense. And so that part still leaves me a little bit worried, even if I think the Bears offense can control that side of the ball.
Eagles 49ers. There's a lot of folks that are just like, oh, recency bias. The Niners couldn't score against the Seahawks defense. Vic Fangio is a mastermind. He will just end the 49ers season quickly. Do you see it that way, or do you think that this might be more competitive than people are expecting?
I think it's going to be competitive. The Eagles offense is actively not good. And so that's a scenario where I think the 49ers could absolutely win that game. Like the Eagles defense is great, but the Niners offense is also really good. Like I don't think that we should look at what happened to the Niners in week 18 against the Seahawks and think that is a proper representation of what the San Francisco 49ers offense is. That's a representation of what the Seahawks defense is. And while I think the Eagles have been really good all year, they are not the Eagles defense is not the Seahawks defense. And so I think that's just important to remember. Like I would not be surprised if the Niners were able to move the ball and look a lot better offensively in that game than they did against Seattle.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've heard a lot of folks kind of say, oh, well, the 49ers didn't have Trent Williams, and that was a big reason. Maybe. That was not really the position that was getting exposed in that game. The rest of the offensive line was taking turns getting exposed, and they did a lot against the Bears without Trent Williams. So I do wonder, it does not look necessarily like Trent Williams is going to make it for this game. That's a really big deal. I don't know. The Eagles defense for me, I don't know if it has not felt like the Eagles defense from last year in terms of especially pass rush. So I am curious about that one.
I think recently, since Jalen Carter got back,
yes,
I feel like they have looked like a different team. I think that's really important. And so they don't have a Milton Williams, but Moro Jomo has been good for them this year. Since they got Jalen Phillips with Nolan Smith back in the lineup, I think you could see what that defense was with and without a healthy version of Jalen Carter. And so I do think that the pass rush is trending very much in the right direction compared to what it looked like in the back half of the season.
We're not going to go through all the AFC games, but let's just talk about the AFC field. In the event that the Seahawks make it through to the Super Bowl, which of the teams that you think have the best chance to make it there from the AFC side, and which do you think would have the best chance of matching up with a Seahawks team?
I just think based on history, and if you look at the odds and I think it's so tight that the Broncos playing one fewer game goes a long way. Like getting the bye is huge when I think everything is so crowded. I don't even know who I would say is the scariest team or the best team among that entire field. Like I guess it's Denver, but is it really? Like is the team quarterback by Bo Nix the one that you're most scared of? But the best quarterback in that field, like we always call them the alien quarterbacks, that team isn't that good. And so I really don't know what to make of it. Like if you told me the Bills came out of the AFC, if you told me the Patriots came out of the AFC, if you told me the Broncos came out of the AFC, I think I would believe any of those. I just think it is so much more crowded and so much more competitive than the NFC field, because in the NFC field, I think that the Rams and the Seahawks stand apart from the rest of the pack. In the AFC, I just don't think that's the case.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Bills. You didn't mention the Jags, who seem like they're playing.
They're in there, absolutely. They're 100% in that conversation.
Right? For the first time, Josh Allen does not have a Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow to get through. He has to get through his own run defense. How are they going to finally get there? Is my question.
I think they're going to get there because the offense is still a very good unit top to bottom. Like the passing game is more inconsistent. The pass catchers are actively bad, but they're able to run the ball extremely well. And he's still Josh Allen. Like he's still Josh Allen. He's still playing at a high level. So I think the ceiling for the offense and the floor for the offense, just because they can run the ball so efficiently, that's still dangerous enough. And like I said earlier, the pass defense specifically and the ability for them to have sort of these bespoke game plans on that side of the ball, I do think that they're the type of defense that could go on sort of a surprising run in that they could be competent over the course of a playoff game run. Like, there are tons of teams that we've seen that were bad run defenses, quote unquote, heading into the playoffs, where it's mattered a little bit less in the postseason. And I think the Bills are that sort of team. There's a chance that the Jags run all over them this weekend, but I still think they're the sort of defense that could maybe surprise some people as you get into the postseason.
Robert, you got a lot to do. Thank you for coming on with us. Hopefully we get to reunite on Radio Row at the Super Bowl, if all things work out. Tell folks what you got coming up over on the Athletic Football Show.
Got plenty of stuff. We're doing our we're doing our wildcard preview today. Recording it today. It's going to come out tomorrow. We're going to be doing that in 2 parts, and then we'll have live recaps for the wildcard games on Saturday and Sunday and Monday. So if you want to catch any chatter about any of those games, we'll be going live as soon as they're over.
If you want to know why Robert hasn't been on the show more this year, it's because he's constantly doing other things. It's unbelievable. It's great stuff. I listen all the time. Robert, have a great rest of your day.
Appreciate it. See you guys.
All right. That was Robert Mays of the Athletic Football Show. Kind enough to join us during the middle of a crazy week for him with a live show last night and prep for the Athletic Football Show today. Always good to catch up with Robert. And we had him every week last season. It was such a treat. Learned a lot. He's still, for my money, like, if not the best out there, like he's in the conversation in terms of knowledge of every single football team, knowledge of football, the game, knowledge of the people, the coaches, the front office. You know, he is connected, smart, I think entertaining, and I love the way his brain works. So it's always a treat to get a chance to kind of hear his thought process and where his mind is on it. And it's not nothing that Robert says the Seahawks are the best team in football. It's not. That's why I asked him to say it again, because that's pretty special. I mean, that's what I've been saying, but obviously I'm a Seahawks fan and someone who covers the team. So there's going to be some bias built in, even if I try to be objective. But, you know, this is a guy that is very much Sean McVay pilled. He's done interviews with McVay and McVay's house. Like, McVay's a fan of him and vice versa. Like, there's so much respect there. And I don't think it is a small thing when Robert doesn't say the Rams are the best team, even though, you know, some people might. And, you know, it's interesting to kind of hear the parts of it that he was picking out in terms of the fact that they're a complete football team, that they do everything well. And one of the things that gives him credibility for me is he doesn't see it like a national person where, you know, it's like, oh, the convenient explanation for what happened in the Seahawks 49ers game is they were missing Trent Williams and Ricky Pearsall, and you know, things just didn't go well, and the Seahawks were fortunate, or that like a bunch of other teams like the Eagles defense can do the same thing. You heard he recognized that the Seahawks defense is a different beast, and that what they did was special and unique and not something that can be dismissed by a but. That was a truly dominant performance by what I think is the best defense in the NFL and one of the best defenses in the history of the NFL. Believe it or not, like that is a reality based on, you know, the efficiency that they've put out there this season. So good stuff from Robert. And we will, you know, hopefully be in a position where we get on Radio Row for the Super Bowl and have all sorts of fun guests file through there. Wouldn't that be amazing? That'd be so fun. And if not that, but hopefully it will be that. I'm sure we'll catch up with him at the Combine or the league meeting or one of those places over the off season. So great stuff. Great stuff there from Robert Mays. If you have not already, now is a really, really good time to go over to SimplySeattle.com. Use promo code HawkBlogger15, get you 15% off any of your favorite Seahawks gear. I'm going to be going over there today to grab some of the new division championship stuff from the warehouse. We'll talk. I've got some ideas we're passing along for some dark side gear. See if we can get some dark side gear going over there as well. But you can go to SimplySeattle.com right now. Use code HawkBlogger15, get 15% off. And you want to go to SimplySeattle.com. You can go to the stores themselves, but you're going to get all the latest gear up on the website. So that's where I would suggest you go. It's also the place you can use the code to get 15% off. So highly recommend doing that. And then download the Sleeper app. It is a great place to stay in touch with all things football, basketball, NHL, whatever the sport is that you love. And you can hang out with friends there. There's chat, all sorts of great things. And if you use code HAWKS, you get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions do apply. So see Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. So let's get to some of the rest of the stuff going on here. News and notes. If you missed this for whatever reason in Real Hawk Talk last night with Evan Hill and Jeff Simmons, injury updates for the Seahawks. You had Charles Cross back out at practice yesterday, looking spry and jogging out there onto the field. You had Elijah Arroyo open his practice window, 21 days starting yesterday, Wednesday, that he can practice before he gets added back to the 53-man roster. He was jogging out there on the field, recovering from this knee injury. And that's a big deal. Like there's this piece here, and I'm going to pull it up just to make sure I've got this right. But okay, Elijah Arroyo last played against Atlanta. That is the game in which he got hurt. So if we look at let's see here, the Atlanta game, that was, am I in the right season here? Atlanta. Okay, got it. That was week 14. So the Seahawks offense had already started having some challenges. It's not like a one-to-one correlation, which is actually good that we have some differences. But we did see the offense stall immediately the next week against the Colts. Only scored 18 points, one of their lowest outputs of the year. Struggled in general. Then you had the Rams game. Offense was okay. Ended up being pretty good with 38 points in overtime. But then you had the Panthers game and the 49ers game. So you've played 4 full games since Arroyo was hurt. And I think that one of the things that matters about his return is he is the only tight end that can stretch the field. That's part of his game. And the Seahawks did use him that way. People forget, the catch in the Commanders game, the catch, excuse me, in the first Cardinals game along the sideline. He's an athletic dude. And what they haven't had is Elijah Arroyo in the lineup when they also have a quality running game. And the running game's been improving since week 10, but it's taken up to a new notch like lately. And one of my questions there is that because the Seahawks have been using Saubert and AJ Barner, and so the run game is also benefiting from that because they're better blockers than Elijah Arroyo? Or is it something else? Like, here's another thing that I'm going to put out there. And I don't want to slander anybody, but when did Kennedy Polamalu leave? Kennedy Polamalu, he stepped away from the team December 10th. Okay. December 10th. That means, where did that? I'm trying to find where this is. Okay, so that would be after the Atlanta game. So the same time frame. So the Colts game, messy, whatever. But then 171 yards rushing against the Rams, 163 yards rushing against the Panthers, 180 yards rushing against the 49ers. there's been a lot of conversation about the running backs and whether they are like taking the right tracks, and it's actually come up from the coaches. There's been time that Mike McDonald's been very certain, and Clint Kubiak to bring up, it's not just the offensive line. Sometimes it is the tracks that the running backs are taking, and that there's been different things that have been a problem. What if the new running back leadership in terms of coaching, what if that's helped? And I honestly, I don't mean that to be slander against Kennedy Polamalu. I like Kennedy. I interviewed him. But maybe a new voice helps. And the people that took over the running back room was the run game coordinator, assistant offensive line coach Justin Outen, and offensive assistant Michael Byrne. So having the guy who's responsible for the run game coordination take over the running back room 4 weeks ago, and 3 of those 4 weeks were your best rushing games of the season, that might be a story. Like, there might be something there, and it's a quiet one because, I mean, who's really paying attention to who the Seahawks running backs coach is and all that kind of stuff. But it feels to me like to my eye, not like looking at the all 22 and specifically saying, oh yeah, they're making these. To my eye, Ken Walker's been much more aggressive attacking the line of scrimmage and more decisive in his reads. Zach Charbonnet has been amazing the last month. Like, his cuts, his assertiveness in how he's getting upfield, I think has been better. I don't think it's just that it's getting blocked up better. I think that the running backs are running it better. That could be wrong. I'm not going to be the one that tells you that my opinion is the only one that matters. And, you know, I'm a ball knower and nobody else is. Like, I'm not that guy, but that's my instinct. And I've learned to trust my instinct over time. So I'll go back and try to find some verification, some ways to verify that. I'll probably ask some people about it now that it's occurred to me. But I think that might be part of what's going on as well. And so now, if that's the case, now add a vertical stretch tight end into the mix, who, by the way, was a better blocker this year than I thought he would be. I've talked to Elijah about it before. It was something he really wanted to work on and puts a lot of effort into and has been pretty good at it. Add him into the mix. I think it could be a sneaky big addition. Now, he's also had some rookie moments. You know, he didn't run the perfect routes in the Rams game the first time, and it led to, like, it contributed to some of the turnovers in that game. And, you know, he has not been this massive impact player, but does he have the ability to make a handful of plays in the postseason that end up being critical? I think he does. I think he does. So I'm excited for him to come back. I'm excited for Charles Cross to be back. I'm excited that Josh Jones played as well as he did. And now you've got confidence that you've got a backup tackle that can come in and do the job if you need to. I mean, just think about all of the players that have stepped forward for the Seahawks this season, either due to injury or just because they earned the snaps. I mean, Drake Thomas, Ty Okada. I would call out Josh Jobe has been great. I mean, there's a long list. It's a long list, but Josh Jones now belongs on that list as another guy who's stepped into a role. And these weren't easy games. Like, home game against the Rams on a Thursday night, very little prep. And then our 2 road games against the Panthers and against the 49ers. And against the 49ers, I'm telling you, that guy was playing banged up. And I thought he played really well. Now, it wasn't the best pass rush to go against, but still, like, it was impressive. So, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about getting those guys back. Hopefully, did not get to see if Kobe Bryant practiced. They do not have to release practice reports on these bye week practices, so we don't know who all did or did not practice. But we'll see when Kobe Bryant starts practicing. And the other thing that's notable is they did not open the practice windows for George Halani or for Chaz Surratt. So they have got, once Arroyo comes off the injured list, they'll have 2 more remaining activations that they can use. I don't know if they're going to use him or not. Personally, like, I really like George Halani, so I won't be upset if they activate George Halani, but I'm a Velus Jones guy. I'm like, I'm very excited about him. And so he can do the return game. I think he's a great change of pace back, very explosive. He'd be my 3rd running back in the postseason without hesitation. That would still then leave you 2 activations that you could choose how to use. Even though Mike McDonald said Torrey Horton's season's over, the fact that he said at the very end, like, you know, depending on how far we go, who knows? I'm leaving open that little window that Torrey Horton, if they choose to, could come back maybe for the Super Bowl or something like that. And maybe that's a reason enough to leave 1 activation available just in case. Let's take a look at a couple other things. So you guys know me. I'm always doing like middle of the night. Doesn't matter. When I'm just having fun, I am putting up, looking up stats. And I've told you guys I've built all these tools that now let me look up things that were really hard to do before. Oh, wow. Mike McDaniel has been fired by the Miami Dolphins. That's John Harbaugh is going to Miami. That is what's happening. Their owner, Stephen Ross, is a Michigan guy. I think that's what's happening. I think, yeah. So everyone's like, I'm late. I get it, guys. I can't read chat all the time. I got other things I'm looking at. But yeah, that's interesting. I think Harbaugh will end up there. And if for whatever reason Clint Kubiak gets hired somewhere else, McDaniel becomes an interesting OC candidate. So we'll keep an eye on that. But what I wanted to share with you guys separately was a couple of things. So first, just for some fun, everyone was like, hey, JSN, like, he's chasing after Calvin Johnson. He's going to make history. And then it's like, all right, he fell off. Well, turns out JSN did make history. JSN is the first receiver ever to have more than 1,700 yards receiving with fewer than 165 targets. And the reason I think this is really cool is, I mean, he had almost 1,800 yards. And that's a huge total for someone who's on a heavy running team like that. Like, the percentage of rushing that the Seahawks do, I think, is the tops or second in the league, one of the two. And so for JSN to not only lead the NFL in receiving yards, but to be the only player in the history of the sport to have that many yards with fewer than 165 targets, I think is notable and pretty cool. The other thing, this is what I was talking about with Robert, or I mentioned to Robert, I was looking at rushing efficiency by personnel grouping. And this is looking at the 11 personnel, like 3 wide receiver sets. And if you look at the EPA per play in 11 personnel, when EPA per rush, I should say, in 11 personnel, every single game was negative before the team traded for Rashid Shaheed. And so since then, week 10 was the first game Rashid Shaheed played. Since then, 7 of the 9 games have been a positive EPA per rush performance in 11 personnel. Now, this doesn't mean that 12 personnel with 2 tight ends isn't still really good, but the fact that 11 personnel has become a better running option. And look at these last 3 weeks, right? Look how it goes from 0.027 to 0.236 to 0.284. Those are very efficient rushing numbers. It's very normal for a rushing offense to have a negative EPA per rush. It's just not as efficient as passing. Those are really big numbers. And so the thought there for me is what kind of turned me on to this was when they had Nick Callerup as an inactive against the 49ers. That was surprising. But one, they've got Robbie Oots, who they're using a ton and can use him as a tight end as well. But two, I think they're running more 11 personnel. I think they're running more 3 receivers than they were. And part of the reason they're doing that is because they're able to run effectively out of that. So I think the Seahawks might be, this is a forming hypothesis. This is not like a fully formed. But the logic that I'm following is the Seahawks in the first part of the season went heavy personnel, 2 tight ends, fullback, whatever, to try to get you into base defense so that they could throw over you, right? That was the story. We talked about that early on. What if what they're doing now is the opposite? We are going to go into 11 personnel. We're going to try to get you into your coverage personnel, light folks out there, and we're going to run on you. And so now if that's the case, then you've got the Seahawks with the ability. One of the ways I can look at this, I don't know if you guys are interested enough for me to take time doing this now, but I'm going to try to see if I can find the answer to this while we're here. But one of the clues to this would be, what is the run percentage out of 11 personnel by week for the Seahawks? If the Seahawks percentage of running plays is increasing in 11 personnel over the course of the season, that would be another indicator that this is an intentional shift for the Seahawks toward being a effective run team and finding ways to be good at that. So we'll see if my little tool here comes up with the information I need and that it's useful to go through. But that was another thing that has caught my attention. Worth just knowing that this does not mean that 12 personnel has not been super effective. It's still very effective. All right, I've got my numbers back. Let's see what this tells us. So the Seahawks started the season like around 29%, 23%, 24% run rate out of 11. I haven't looked farther down yet. Okay, still 20s. There's a 37%, but generally in the 20s, low 30s. Week 10, 62%. That's huge. Okay. But then it goes down to 32, 30, 26, 28. All right. So toward the end of the season, the last 2 weeks against the Panthers and the 49ers, 47% and 48% rush rate out of 11 personnel. That is a huge uptick. And the implication there is exactly what I said. I think the implication is the Seahawks believe that they can punish you now in the run game when you go with a nickel defense. So the cool thing there is that now defenses are going to kind of be in a blender where they have to, all right, if the Seahawks go heavy, you're saying you're not going to match. You're going to play coverage too deep, all that kind of stuff. Fine. We've already proven we can run in those situations. But now we're going to give you something else to worry about. When we have Rashid, Shaheed, and Cooper Kupp and JSN out there, or Jake Bobo or Drake Young or whoever else they have, now you're going to figure that out. And one of the cool things there is Jake Bobo is one of the best blocking receivers in the NFL. Cooper Kupp is one of the best blocking receivers in the NFL. JSN takes it very seriously. I think this might be a thing. I might be talking myself into it. I get excited about little data trails like this, but that's another one to kind of I will be keeping an eye on. And so, yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. And then the last thing I'll share with you guys that I just threw up this morning. This is a look at the top 10 running back duos in franchise history in terms of combined yards from scrimmage. So this is receiving yards and rushing yards. And for people that don't know John L. Williams, you should. He's one of the best Seahawks in history. Definitely the best fullback in Seahawks history. So back in the 80s, he and Kurt Warner were this dynamic duo. And John L. Williams was the master of the screenplay. Unbelievable. Had huge hands. Literally could fit his finger to his thumb around the football. He had massive hands. But they're the top, like John L. Williams is involved with the top three, partially because he was just such a dynamic receiver. He'd have like 800,000 yard seasons as a receiver of the football while playing fullback. But the point here is that quietly, with the way they finished, Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet finished among the top 10 in terms of running back duos in Seahawks history for combined scrimmage yards. They finished ahead of Marshawn Lynch and Robert Turbin in 2014. But they're in the conversation with a lot of these other running back duos. So it's been a really productive end of the season and really overall season for those guys. All right. I don't see any super chats here. I'm going to take a quick look to see if there's any on Venmo. I will also take this as an opportunity to remind folks. Now is the time. If you are going to sell your seats for this divisional playoff game that's happening next week, sell them now. Sell them this week, because the only people that are buying tickets to that game this week are Seahawks fans. Next week, starting it could start as soon as Saturday, when if the Packers win, their Packers fans will start trying to buy tickets to this game. So if you're going to sell your tickets, sell them now. If you want to use HBTix, HBTIX.com, it's free to use. I take no fees. And it helps you verify that the person you're selling it to is a Seahawks fan. Do it now. If you care about this team and you want them to win, do your part. Do your part. All right. Speaking of that, I got a really nice super chat. Well, really just a contribution from Nat Tran, who says, thanks for HBTix and all you do for 12s. It's really nice. For people that don't know, I don't charge anything for HBTix. I do pay for it. I have to host it. I've built it. It costs me hundreds of dollars. It's probably going to be $1,000 at the end of the year. I haven't totaled it all up, but it's going to cost me a bunch of money to have run this thing. But I'm doing it because I care about the Seahawks home field advantage. So if you do want to help offset any of my costs, I'm super happy to accept contributions over at venmo.com/Brian-Nemhauser. I'll take tips for sure. And then we got a super chat here. Francisco Gonzalez. If you locked Evan Hill and David Lombardi in a steel cage and only one man came out alive, who comes out victorious? This is easy. Evan is a stacked thick boy at this point. Like, he lives in the gym. So Lombardi is a willowy tall dude. And, I would not take him in a fight personally over like pretty much anyone in the crew. Now I'm not advocating that they actually fight, but I would take Evan for sure. All right. A little comment here from Josh. We can't have any Panthers fans in the stadium. That would be I think that's the only fan base that wouldn't worry me to have in the stadium, but that's really funny. Okay. I think that is all that we have to cover. Yes. But appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. We will have another Seahawks practice today. I'll be there to watch that. And then some more press conferences. I think, I don't know all the guys that are talking today. They told me, but I've forgotten. I think Cooper Kupp will be talking and maybe Ernest Jones. Don't know. I'll have some locker room conversations probably with some of the guys. So keep an eye out on whether that gets posted today. And then tomorrow, Mike Sando and Dave Bowling. The dynamic pair is back together. So that's going to be fun to be with them, 8 a.m. Pacific time. Saturday, Jeff Simmons and I will do Seahawks Saturday before the first playoff game begins. And then we just get to sit back and watch playoff football. I cannot wait. Saturday is going to be so fun. Enjoy this bye week. Enjoy the quiet time. Enjoy the peacefulness. And thank you guys all for supporting the show. Really, really appreciate it. Hope you have a great rest of your day. This has been your episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings for Thursday. Take care.